I stood there, in the middle of the bustling airport, my boarding pass clutched so tightly in my fist it crumpled into a sweaty ball. The line behind me shuffled impatiently. The woman at the counter gave me a sympathetic, almost pitiful smile and said again, slower this time, like I was an idiot. "I'm sorry, sir. There's no ticket under your name." I turned to look at her. My wife, my beautiful Jessica, the woman I thought I knew. She just shrugged, her mouth twisted into a fake little smile, the kind she used when she was lying through her perfect white teeth. "Of course," she said, tossing her dark hair back. "We only booked for the family." The words hit me like a slap. The family. As if I was a stranger. As if I wasn't the guy who worked 2 jobs to pay for this family trip. I heard laughter. Sharp, shrill, mean. Jessica's mother, Linda, was standing nearby with her ridiculous designer sunglasses perched on her forehead. She smirked and said loud enough for the whole damn airport to hear, "Maybe you can take a cheap bus and catch up?" They all laughed. Jessica, her mother, her little spoiled sister, the whole disgusting clan. I felt my stomach churn. Not from embarrassment. From something darker. A sickness that crept up the back of my throat and made my hands tremble. I didn't say a word. Didn't make a scene. I just stepped back, let the next passenger through, and turned around, walking away with my suitcase dragging behind me like dead weight. It wasn't until I reached the parking garage, sitting alone behind the steering wheel, staring blankly ahead, that I realized what had just happened. They didn't forget me. They didn't mess up. They planned this. Jessica didn't want me on that trip. She wanted me out of the picture. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and let out a low, bitter laugh. How could I have been so blind? The signs were all there. The late nights at work. The sudden obsession with her phone, clutching it like a lifeline whenever it buzzed. The fake smiles. The stupid, rehearsed apologies when she came home smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. And now this. Public humiliation. A gut punch to the man who gave her everything. Who would give his damn life for her if she asked. My mind raced, playing back every little thing. Every odd conversation, every whispered phone call, fitting together like a nightmare jigsaw puzzle. There was someone else. There had been someone else for a long time. I should have confronted her right then. I should have driven back to that terminal and ripped her little princess world apart. But I didn't. I sat there for hours, watching the sun dip lower over the skyline, letting the rage stew into something worse, something cold, something patient. I didn't go home that night. I didn't answer her fake, "Where are you?" texts when they finally rolled in, hours later, after she probably realized I wasn't just going to disappear quietly like she hoped. She thought I was weak. She thought she could laugh in my face, throw me away like trash, and not deal with the consequences. She was wrong. So wrong. Because when I finally did come back, I wasn't the same man she left behind at the airport. I parked a few streets away from our house, killing the engine and sitting in the darkness. The porch lights were on, and through the windows, I could see shadows moving, laughing, drinking. So much for Jessica's frantic texts asking where I was. So much for pretending she cared. I crept closer on foot, sticking to the shadows like a damn ghost. Through the half-open window, I could hear music, glasses clinking, the high-pitched giggle that used to make me smile, but now made my skin crawl. Jessica's giggle. And then his voice. I didn't recognize it at first. Deep. Cocky. The voice of a man who thought he owned the world. "You sure he won't show up?" he asked. Jessica laughed. A sharp, cruel sound that twisted the knife already stuck in my gut. "Nah. Tyler's harmless," she said, dragging out the words like I was a joke. "He probably cried all the way home. Poor little puppy." I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Another voice, her sister's, chimed in. "God, Jess, you're savage. You really gonna leave him like that?" Jessica's answer was immediate, cold. "I've been done. I'm just waiting for the paperwork." After that, a pause. A giggle. Freedom. I stumbled back from the window, heart pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. This wasn't some mistake. This wasn't a drunken one-time thing. Jessica had planned this. Humiliated me. Lied to me. Laughed at me. With him. And God help me, I needed to know who the bastard was. I slipped back to my car, hands shaking, vision blurred with rage. My mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour. Who was he? How long had this been going on? Was he the reason she started dressing differently, wearing perfume to girls' nights? I barely slept that night, My brain stuck in an endless loop of images I didn't want to see. Jessica in his arms. Jessica sneaking around behind my back. Jessica playing me like a fool. The next morning, before the sun even rose, I made a decision. I was going to find out everything. No more trusting her. No more pretending. When Jessica finally came home, alone, fake tired, pretending to care, I was ready. I was calm. I was polite. I asked her if she had a good time. She smiled sweetly and said, "It was just family, babe. You should have come." I swallowed the urge to spit in her face. Instead, I hugged her, kissed her cheek, pretended everything was fine. Because I needed time. Time to access her laptop. Time to hack into her phone records. Time to read every filthy message she thought she could hide. And when I did, I found him. Derek. A personal trainer. Of course. Tanned, cocky, muscles for days. The walking cliché of a homewrecker. Their messages were disgusting. Photos I'll never scrub from my memory. Plans they made. Jokes about me. How sweet little Tyler would never see it coming. I snapped my laptop shut, breathing heavily, knuckles white. My marriage wasn't broken. It was slaughtered. And Jessica had been holding the knife. I sat there in the dark, staring at nothing, feeling something inside me wither and die. The love. The loyalty. The part of me that still wanted to believe in her. Gone. All that was left now was the reckoning. The morning felt wrong from the moment I opened my eyes. Jessica was already downstairs, humming some stupid pop song, pretending like everything was normal. I moved like a machine, brushing my teeth, getting dressed, every motion fueled by cold, shaking rage just under the surface. Today was the day. I came into the kitchen, and there she was, standing barefoot, sipping coffee like she hadn't burned our life to the ground. She gave me that bright, fake smile, the one that used to melt me and now made my stomach turn. "Morning, babe," she said lightly, as if yesterday had never happened. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. Silent. Watching. Jessica's smile wavered for half a second before snapping back in place. Something wrong. I kept my voice calm. Too calm. "You ever going to tell me about Derek?" The color drained from her face like a curtain being yanked down. For a long moment, she just stared at me, her mouth slightly open. Then, in true Jessica fashion, she laughed. Laughed. "Oh my God, Tyler. You're being crazy," she said, setting her mug down with a sharp clink. "Are you seriously stalking me now?" "Don't insult me," I said, my voice low. I saw the messages. Her face twisted, not into guilt, but into that ugly, smirking mask she always wore when she thought she was smarter than everyone else. "Fine," she snapped. "Yeah, I've been seeing Derek. So what? Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have had to find someone who actually makes me feel alive." The words sliced into me. I sat there, gripping the table edge until my knuckles turned white, forcing myself not to explode. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. "You could have just left," I said, my voice shaking with fury. Jessica rolled her eyes and leaned back in her chair like a spoiled teenager caught sneaking out after curfew. "Left? Please," she sneered. "You would have cried, begged, made a whole pathetic scene. This was cleaner. Easier. You're just too damn needy, Tyler. Always hovering, always checking in like some lost puppy." Every word felt like another blow. Another betrayal. "And Derek?" I asked. "You think he loves you?" Jessica laughed again, the sound hollow and cruel. "Love? Derek doesn't do love," she said, grinning. "He does other things way better." I knew exactly what she meant. The cheap motel rooms. The midday disappearances. The photos she hid in her locked folder. I stood up, chair scraping hard against the tile. Jessica flinched, not from fear, but from annoyance. "You're pathetic," she said, standing too. "You were always just a paycheck to me. Derek's fun. You're predictable." I didn't say a word. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I walked past her, grabbing the duffel bag I'd packed the night before. I paused at the door, hearing her start to mutter insults under her breath. "You'll be back," she called after me, laughing. "You always come crawling back." I didn't even turn around. I just walked out, the morning sun burning hot on my face, my fists clenched so tight I thought I might break my own fingers. I wasn't coming back. Not this time. Jessica could rot with her musclehead lover for all I cared. The woman I married was dead, and all that was left behind was a monster wearing her face. I drove without knowing where I was going. Every red light, every passing car, Every mile of cracked asphalt blurred together into one endless smear of fury and heartbreak. I gripped the wheel so hard it felt like it might snap off. The words she said played on repeat in my head, like some sick anthem I couldn't shut off. You were just a paycheck. You'll come crawling back. Predictable. The woman I once thought was my soulmate had ripped me apart, and she hadn't even flinched. I pulled into a random motel on the outskirts of town, a dumpy little place where the neon sign buzzed like a dying insect. Perfect. Inside the room, I threw my bag on the floor and just stood there, staring at the peeling wallpaper, the cheap, stained carpet. This was my life now. Abandoned. Mocked. Treated like garbage by the woman I would have died for. The weight of it all finally crashed down on me. I sat on the edge of the bed and buried my face in my hands, letting out a sound, half growl, half sob, that felt like it was ripping its way out of my soul. I hated her. God, I hated her so much. But worse than that, I hated myself. For trusting her. For loving her. For letting her turn me into this hollow, broken thing. I stayed in that room for hours, just staring at the cracked ceiling, until my phone finally buzzed. A message from Jessica. Don't be dramatic. Come home. We need to talk. No apology. No remorse. Just more control. More manipulation. I didn't answer. I didn't even think about answering. Instead, I scrolled through our old photos. Our wedding day. Vacations. Birthday parties. Her fake smile in every single one. A woman playing the long con. Using me as a stepping stone until something better, or in this case, someone better, came along. I almost smashed the phone against the wall, but I stopped myself. No, I needed it. I needed evidence. Proof. I wasn't just going to disappear like she wanted. Jessica thought she'd won. She thought she had it all figured out. But she forgot one thing. I wasn't the same man anymore. The man she humiliated at the airport, the man she laughed at with her meathead boyfriend, the man she thought was too soft to fight back. He was dead. In his place stood something colder. Sharper. Willing to do whatever it took. She wanted a war. She just declared it. The next morning, I was already outside our house before the sun even came up. Engine off. Sitting low in the seat. Watching. Jessica's world looked so perfect from the outside. Neat little porch. Trimmed hedges. 2 cars in the driveway, mine and hers. But I knew the rot underneath now. The lies. The betrayal. At exactly 7:15 a.m., he showed up. Derek. Mr. Perfect Smile, driving a shiny black Mustang like he was some low-budget movie villain. He didn't even bother parking on the street. Just pulled right up like he owned the place. I watched as Jessica came bouncing out the front door, wearing one of those tight little dresses she used to tell me were just for date nights. Yeah, right. She jumped into his arms like a schoolgirl, laughing loud enough for the whole damn neighborhood to hear. He grabbed her around the waist and whispered something in her ear that made her throw her head back and laugh even harder. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles cracked. She kissed him. Right there. On my driveway. I wanted to storm out of the car, rip him out of his overpriced piece of junk Mustang, and beat him until he forgot his own name. But I didn't. Not yet. They drove off together, and I followed, keeping back just enough not to be obvious. My heart hammered so hard in my chest I could barely hear anything else. Every time they touched, every time she leaned in and smiled at him, it felt like another dagger twisting inside me. They ended up at some fancy brunch spot downtown. All mimosas and avocado toast and fake, plastic smiles. She fed him from her fork, laughing like they were on the set of some cheesy romance movie. I snapped a few photos. Not because I needed them. No, I had enough proof already. But because part of me wanted her to see what she looked like. How cheap. How replaceable. They stayed there for hours, acting like 2 teenagers who had the world wrapped around their fingers. No care for the destruction they'd left behind. No thought for the man they'd gutted and tossed aside like yesterday's trash. When they finally came out, Jessica's phone lit up in her hand. I could see it even from across the parking lot. She read the message and froze. Her face turned pale. She grabbed Derek's arm and showed him the screen. I smiled to myself in the car. Because that message was from me. 2 words, I know. Panic spread across her face like wildfire. She looked around wildly, scanning the parking lot, searching for me. Derek grabbed her by the shoulders, trying to calm her down, but Jessica shoved him off, her cool, bitchy mask finally slipping. Good. Let her feel it. Let her taste even a fraction of the betrayal she shoved down my throat. I started the engine and pulled away before they could spot me. I didn't want a confrontation. Not yet. I wanted her to stew, to sweat, to wonder how much I knew, how deep the knife was buried. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The call came that night. Jessica's name lit up my phone like a flare. I let it ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then I picked up, silent. Tyler. Her voice was shaky, uncertain, a sound I hadn't heard from her in years. Good. Yeah. I said flatly. I think we need to talk, she stammered, trying to sound wounded, like I had wronged her. Can you come home? I could almost picture her, pacing the kitchen, biting her lip, pretending to cry. She thought she could fix this with crocodile tears and a tight shirt. She really didn't know me anymore. Sure, I said. I hung up without waiting for a reply. I didn't drive straight there. I made her wait. Let her nerves stew. Let her imagination run wild. When I finally pulled up to the house, the porch light was still on. Jessica was standing outside, arms crossed, shifting from foot to foot, wearing the same damn dress she'd worn for Derek earlier that day. Pathetic. She ran to me the moment I stepped out of the car, throwing her arms around my neck. I stood stiff, unmoving, feeling nothing but disgust as she pressed herself against me. I'm so sorry, she whispered against my ear. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I was just confused. I pushed her back, holding her by the shoulders, looking straight into her fake, watery eyes. How long? I asked. She blinked rapidly. Tyler, How long, Jessica? She hesitated. A beat too long. 1,000 stories forming behind her eyes. Maybe a few weeks, she lied, her voice dripping with fake shame. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. Try 7 months, I said. I read everything. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. No more hiding. No more spinning lies. I stepped past her, into the house, not caring if she followed. Inside, everything was spotless, fake perfect. The illusion she clung to so desperately. I dropped a manila envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside were copies of her messages. Photos. Receipts. Proof. Jessica stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. What's this? She whispered. Insurance, I said calmly. For the divorce. Her face crumpled for half a second before the rage took over. You can't do this to me, she screeched. You can't just walk away like I'm nothing. I smiled, a real smile this time. The first genuine feeling I'd had in days. Funny, I said, heading for the door. That's exactly what you did to me. Behind me, I heard something crash. Maybe a vase, maybe her little fantasy world, but I didn't turn around. Let her scream. Let her throw her tantrum. I was done playing the fool. Jessica wasn't a wife. She was a ticking time bomb, and I'd finally stopped standing close enough to get blown apart. The next morning, my lawyer served her at work. Jessica had barely made it through the front doors of the spa she worked at when a sharp-suited courier handed her the thick, official envelope. Divorce papers. Full documentation. Everything lined up. Her little kingdom crumbled in the blink of an eye. I watched from my car across the street as she ripped the envelope open, reading the first few lines. Her face went from smug to white-hot panic faster than I thought humanly possible. She whipped out her phone, probably calling me, but I had already blocked her number. I wasn't going to listen to another second of her voice. I didn't care what she had to say. Not anymore. I wanted her to feel it, the cold emptiness she had shoved down my throat. I wanted her to live in it. An hour later, she showed up at my motel, banging on the door like a lunatic. I opened it casually, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. Jessica stormed in without waiting for an invitation, eyes wild, hair a mess, mascara smudged from either tears or pure rage. You son of a bitch, she screamed. You're ruining my life. I closed the door slowly behind her, trapping her in the cheap room that reeked of stale smoke and regret. Ruining your life? I asked, amused. Jessica, you torched it yourself. She pointed a shaking finger at me. You think you're better than me? She spat. You're nothing without me. You'll be begging me to come back when you realize no one else will want you. I laughed, a deep, real laugh that made her take a step back. Sweetheart, I said, I'd rather live alone in a cardboard box than spend one more minute with a lying, two-faced, self-obsessed brat like you. Her face twisted into something monstrous, something no amount of makeup could ever hide. The real her. The rotting thing underneath the pretty packaging. You'll regret this, she shrieked. Derek loves me. He's moving in. We're going to have a real life together. Better than anything you ever gave me. I shrugged. Good luck with that, I said. Hope you like sharing him. Jessica blinked, confused. You really think you're the only one? I added casually. Derek's been running through half the women at his gym, including a few of your so-called friends. Her mouth dropped open. For the first time, I saw something real in her eyes. Fear. Doubt. I could have crushed her then. Finished the job. Told her about the screenshots I had. The videos. The nasty little secrets Derek didn't bother hiding. But I didn't need to. She was already breaking. Jessica stumbled back, hitting the edge of the cheap motel table, knocking over a grimy lamp. She looked small now. Pathetic. Not the untouchable queen she thought she was. I opened the door. Get out, I said simply. She hesitated, her mouth opening like she wanted to plead, or rage, or lie some more. But nothing came out. She walked past me, defeated, her heels clicking hollowly against the dirty tile. I watched her disappear down the sidewalk, her shoulders hunched, her head low. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. The motel felt less suffocating after she left, like I could finally breathe for the first time in months. I sat back down on the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling again, but this time it didn't feel like the walls were closing in. It felt like space, like possibility. I didn't rush. I didn't make some dramatic post on social media. I didn't call friends to vent. I just sat there in the quiet, letting it all sink in. Jessica was gone, and with her, the weight I didn't even realize I had been carrying for years. All the little ways she had chipped away at me. The criticisms dressed up as help. The manipulation disguised as concern. The endless mind games where I was always wrong and she was always the victim. Gone. It hurt, yeah? It wasn't the clean, righteous kind of anger you see in movies. It was messy, ugly. I missed the idea of her more than the reality. The girl I fell in love with at 23. The nights we stayed up talking about dreams we never chased. The promises she made under the stars and broke in cheap motel rooms with men like Derek. But even through the ache, I knew the truth. She wasn't that girl anymore. Hell, maybe she never was. Jessica was a fantasy I kept alive long after she had stopped deserving it. I thought about the day we got married. The way she smiled at me in front of all our friends and family, wearing white like she deserved it. I thought about all the times I trusted her, defended her, believed her, and I thought about the airport. The way she shrugged me off like an afterthought, laughing while her mother humiliated me. That was who she really was. Not the girl in the wedding dress. Not the wife I thought I knew. And the hardest pill to swallow? I let her do it. I let it go on, day after day, hoping she would change, praying things would get better. They never did. I stood up and grabbed my bag. I didn't even bother looking back at the room. I was done living in places that smelled like other people's failures. I drove out of town with the windows down. The cool air cutting through me, sharp and cleansing. I didn't have a plan, didn't know where I was going. But for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't afraid. Jessica could keep her lies, her fake apologies, her miserable little world built on betrayal. I had something she would never have again. Peace. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's this. You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be saved. You can't build a future with someone who's busy burning it down behind your back. If you're ever standing there, wondering if you're crazy, if you're overthinking it, if maybe it's your fault, trust yourself. It's not you. It's them. Walk away. And don't you dare look back.